Sondland confuses everybody, admits he did not hear quid pro quo directly. That is the topic of today's op-ed live. So if you look at the mainstream media like LA Times, New York Times, Washington Post, and CNN, they're all running this story that Sondland said, yes, there was quid pro quo. But when there was cross-examinations, his tune changed dramatically. So New York Post really summed up yesterday's testimony really well. So the title is this, Sondland's bombshell turns out to be merely his presumption. So they're going with presumption, perception, hearsay, but no facts at all so far. So that's why I said from the get-go, this whole impeachment investigation is nothing but a hoax. It's nothing but a cover-up. Cover-up of what? Obama administration spying on the Trump campaign. That's just what this is all about. The Russia collusion is nothing but the same as the Ukraine scandal. It's all interrelated. If you really get it to the itty-bitty of it, if you really get into it, if you really dive deeply, you can see that it's all connected. Because why? Because the Trump-Russia collusion hoax was created in Ukraine. Okay? It was created in Ukraine. The server that was supposedly hacked by Russians, that's also in Ukraine. If you look at the transcript, if you read the transcript between Trump and the Ukrainian president, Trump asked him about CrowdStrike, okay? CrowdStrike is what? It's a company in Irvine, California, okay? Security firm. It's a private security firm. And if you look at the board members, they're all pro-Democrat, pro-Hillary donors. And there's Eric Schmidt also on the board. They were the one who said to the world, oh, Russia hacked these servers. To me, I don't think so. I don't think Russia did anything at all regarding the server. Okay? I don't think there was any meddling too. Just minor, like $100,000, something like that, between that range, between 100,000 or 500,000. I don't know the exact number. But that number pales in comparison to all the tons of money that the mainstream media generated for Hillary and the Democrats, and still continue to do, by the way. So please do not get deceived by the mainstream media. They are very corrupt. The New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, they're a corrupt, to me, they look like a criminal entity, really. They're just covering it all up. That's how much they hate Donald Trump. They're suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. And it's all out to sea. This impeachment thing, it symbolizes these left-wing people. I wouldn't say even left-wing. These corrupt people suffering from Trump derangement syndrome because they know that it's going to be all revealed, all exposed to the world. Okay, so New York Post continues with this. Gordon Sondland, you see him here, was supposed to be the key witness in the impeachment drive. The guy who nailed the coffin shut on Donald Trump's presidency. Yet his most damaging testimony in long hours of questioning Wednesday turned out to rest on nothing but mere assumptions, like I already told you. Perceptions, hearsay, no facts whatsoever, okay? No facts so far. Sondland opened the hearing by asserting that Trump team imposed a quid pro quo on Ukraine. In the opening testimony, it did sound like damaging news to Trump. But if you get to the cross-examination time, he somersaulted 180, okay? He said request by Trump's lawyer Rudy Giuliani condition a White House visit for President Zelensky on a Ukrainian public statement announcing investigations of the 2016 election, DNC server, and Burisma. And Sondland assumed Rudy was following Trump's orders. But you know what? When Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan asked Sondland a question, did you hear it directly from Trump or Giuliani? He couldn't say it. He said he guessed it. He guessed it, okay? He guessed the quid pro quo. He thought it was quid pro quo. Now, I don't doubt that. Probably he thought it that way. But you can't impeach a sitting president just by going with perception and hearsay. You just can't do that, okay? And it continues. Eventually, he also came to believe that U.S. security aid depended on Ukraine publicly committing to the investigations to the 2016 election and Burisma. I already said that. And yet, Sondland noted that we did not think we were engaging in improper behavior, that no one expressed any concerns. And he admitted that Trump never told him of any preconditions for aid or a meeting. You know, if you read the mainstream media, they really do not get into the details about the Q&As. There were specific questions. Did Donald Trump directly ask you, or Giuliani directly ask you? And he couldn't answer. He said he just guessed it. He thought that, you know, everybody was in the loop, and there was supposedly, you know, quid pro quo. That was his perception. But you cannot go. You cannot judge anybody on that. It's just anybody can say anything, right? And anybody can perceive a certain situation their own way. You got to have facts, but they don't. They don't have anything. I don't think they even have any witness anymore so far, the Democrats. I don't think they have any witnesses waiting online for next week's hearing, nothing. Because they know that this whole thing was nothing but a huge disaster, okay? I will admit this. He did give the mainstream media a good headline to go on. The headline was, yes, there was quid pro quo. That was a good quote for any newspaper. Okay, it was a good quote. But if you really get into it, if you really get into the details, and if you watched his testimony, which I did, then you would know that he does not have any evidence or facts that Trump directly ordered him for a quid pro quo deal. No, there is nothing like that. You know, if you just go by the headlines, like the New York Times, Washington Post, or even LA Times, you would believe that. But no, I really challenge you to watch the entire testimony if you really want to, you know, get to the bottom of it. You have to. I mean, in these days, it's very hard to just rely on mainstream media like the New York Times, Washington Post. It's very hard. So you got to really sometimes watch the highlights. Even PBS came up with a lot of good highlights. You know, if you watch PBS, he also testified. This is what he said. He said on September 9th, President Trump told Sondland that he wants no quid pro quo. He said he wants nothing. He even said that, okay? But you're not going to be able to read that part in the mainstream media. I mean, I didn't read every single one of them, but so far I couldn't see that part on CNN website or even the New York Times. So the follow-up was, asked outright, no one on this planet told you President Trump was trying aid to investigations. Yes or no? And he said yes, which means nobody told him to tie this whole investigation to the foreign aid. The follow-up, so you really have no testimony today that ties President Trump to a scheme to withhold aid from Ukraine in exchange for these investigations. Sondland's answer, other than my own presumption. He even said that. It was his own presumption. I didn't say it. The mainstream media didn't say it. He said it. Other than my own presumption. He presumed that it was quid pro quo. But you just can't go with presumptions. I told you, you can't go with perceptions. No hearsay. Indeed, when he directly asked Trump what he sought from Ukraine, the president responded, I want nothing. I want no quid pro quo. This was an actual conversation between President Trump and Ambassador Sondland, okay? So he said, according to him, he even seemed to use an F word in the middle while talking with President Trump. I don't think that, that looks nice, but he said, he directly asked Trump, hey, what do you want with Ukraine? And this is what the president said. I want nothing. I want no quid pro quo. Tell Zelensky to do the right thing. Okay. That's the real story. That's what happened yesterday. Not quid pro quo yes, it happened. Okay, that is not the headline. That is not how you can summarize this whole thing, what happened yesterday with the Sondland testimony. So for weeks, Sondland testified he saw no link between investigators and aid or a Trump-Zelensky meeting. And he stressed repeatedly he had no clue at all till late in the game that Joe or Hunter Biden was remotely tied to any of this. So he didn't even know it. Then how could it be quid pro quo? He didn't even know that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden was involved in this company called, what is it, Brisbane or whatever it is, Burisma, okay? It's ridiculous. This whole thing is nothing but a hoax, and I'm telling you, yeah, there's a much bigger news. This is real news. This is real news. There's a much bigger news that came out. Lindsey Graham, the Senate Judiciary Committee chairman. So he's a big deal, right? Lindsey Graham, Senate Judiciary Committee chairman. Lindsey Graham announced yesterday that DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz, I talked about him probably for years, right? Michael Horowitz's report on alleged FISA abuses in the 2016 election will be released on December 9th. Probably I should have put that on the title. You got that? Graham said this, it'll be December the 9th. You'll get the report. That is locked, okay? What is this about? FISA abuse? It's about the Obama administration spying on the Trump campaign. That's what it is. And this whole thing, this impeachment investigation is a cover-up of what's about to happen. They're not going to be able to cover this up, in my opinion. They spied on Carter Page. I interviewed him. They spied on Carter Page, who was a volunteer for the Trump campaign. They wiretapped him. Okay, and that's how they wiretapped him through what? They used this fake, phony, and false Christopher Steele dossier, and that's how they got the warrant from the FISA court, okay? And I told you they have a hot rule. So whenever Carter Page talks with, for instance, Steve Bannon, and Steve Bannon talked with Trump, they can wiretap all of them, okay? And you remember Trump saying I was wiretapped by Obama? Do you remember all that? Where is the media on that now? They can't defend that anymore because they know it's true that Trump was wiretapped by the Obama administration. They know it. Mike Rogers told him, right? Mike Rogers was the one. He's an unsung hero in this whole situation. Think about it. How wrong is it for the FBI to spy on a presidential candidate? You know, this should be on the front page of the New York Times, the so-called Gray Lady paper of record. This story should be on the front page every day, 365 days a year. But they're fake news. You know, that's why they're not covering this story, which is tragic. Okay, let's check some news headlines and Twitter feeds. Okay, Mark Meadows came up with this. Wow. Okay, Representative Mike Turner said this. Mr. Sondland, let's be clear. No one on this planet, this was yesterday's Sondland's testimony. No one on this planet, not Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, Mick Mulvaney, Mike Pompeo, no one told you aid was tied to political investigations. Is that correct? That's a pretty direct question, right? Can't be more direct than that. And Gordon Sondland answered that's correct. Game over. Let's move on to the next page. Trump tweeted this. The Republican Party and me had a great day yesterday with respect to the phony impeachment hoax. And yet, when I got home to the White House and checked out the news coverage on much of television, you would have no idea they were reporting on the same event. Fake and corrupt news. Let's move on. Jordan Sazar tweeted this. FISA IG report coming when? Okay, let's go back. Now, December 9th and December 11th, 2 days after the IG report, IG, Michael Horowitz will testify in front of Congress. Expect a turbulent few weeks ahead. Increased risk of things like false flag shooting. I don't know. This is a little bit conspiracy. I don't want to read that part. Okay, let's move on to the next page. Charlie Kirk, boom. After a month of Democrats' impeachment hoax, the latest 2020 Wisconsin poll has Trump leading every major Democrat contender. Look at that. Trump versus Biden, 47-44. Trump versus Warren, 48-43. Trump versus Sanders, 48-45. And Trump versus Buttigieg, 48-39. Retweets of the MSM cannot ignore. Okay, I think we should retweet it so that a lot of people who got brainwashed by the MSM can wake up to the truth. Let's move on. Okay, NYPD sergeant kills himself, marking 10th officer to die by suicide this year in the city. It seems like this is like a record. I don't know why this kind of thing is happening. Let's move on. Well, that was an October 16th article, but somebody tweeted today, so I thought it was noteworthy. Kevin McCarthy, GOP leader, tweeted this. It has been a bad day for Democrats. If you read the mainstream media, you wouldn't feel that way. But it had been a bad day for Democrats, but it's hard to say what's worse for them. 10 hours of a sham impeachment, or 10 candidates trying to prove who is the biggest socialist. Let's move on. Because there was a debate yesterday too, right? The Democratic presidential debate. Charlie Kirk tweeted this. The DNC just tried to hide their FEC fundraising report in the middle of the Democrat debate. Just $8.7 million cash on hand. They're in trouble. They're in deep trouble. And $7 million in debt. Trump's re-election campaign raised $3.1 million in the first day of the impeachment hoax alone. It's actually helping Trump. Democrats should know that. If they're really smart, they wouldn't do this. This is doing nothing but galvanizing Trump supporters. And a lot of independents, according to Politico is a left-wing news media. According to Politico, they did a survey, and there was a 20% point swing between 2 weeks ago and today. What I'm saying is 20% of independents who supported Trump impeachment investigation 2 weeks ago are now against it. Okay? People are waking up to the fact. I mean, people are not being deceived by the mainstream media. I think that's the more correct statement, okay? The Democrats are a disaster. Let's move on to the next page. Under Mayor Pete's watch, the fourth largest town in Indiana had a higher murder rate than Chicago. Wow. 16.4 murders per 100,000 in Chicago, 16.8 murders per 100,000 in South Bend. He can't keep a small town safe. What makes him think that he can keep America safe? But Pete Buttigieg, he's doing well. He's right now polling number one in both New Hampshire and Iowa. So it seems like he's a front runner right now. Okay, we got to just go by the numbers, right? Let's move on. Mark Meadows, I think I already showed you this. Mr. Sondland, let's be clear, no one on this planet, not Donald Trump, but it's worth reading again. Not Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, Mick Mulvaney, Mike Pompeo. No one told you aid was tied to political investigations. Is that correct? And Gordon Sondland answers, that is correct. Game over. Okay, I think, is there any more? Let's move on. Okay, Trump tweeted this. Poll, Trump leads top 2020 Democrats in Wisconsin. I just showed you the numbers, so Hill reported that. Let's move on. And you got to remember this article. So it wasn't Fox News or any conservative media outlet that came out with the Ukrainian Hillary Clinton campaign scandal, collusion scandal. The real collusion is that, Hillary Clinton campaign and Ukrainian government. Look at this. Politico came out with this article in January 11th, 2017. Okay? Ukrainian efforts to sabotage Trump backfire. So this story came out in 2017. You know, many people are saying, people who read the mainstream media on a daily basis, they don't know about this scandal, the Ukraine Hillary Clinton collusion scandal. They don't know about this. Okay? But this actually came out, it's like almost 3 years ago, okay? Kiev officials are scrambling to make amends with the president-elect after quietly working to boost Clinton. The Russia collusion thing was nothing but a hoax. It was created in Ukraine. It was their manufactured collusion to bring down President Trump. Okay, it is nothing more than that. So you got to understand this Ukrainian scandal has everything to do with the Russia scandal. It's all correlated. If you really get into the if you really get to the bottom of it, you can see all the characters are the same. And you can actually see that it was the Democrats and the Hillary Clinton campaign and the FBI all being involved together to create this Trump-Russia collusion narrative. But it's completely debunked. It was nothing but a conspiracy theory. That is a conspiracy theory, okay? But if you have evidence and facts backing you up, then you cannot say that is a conspiracy theory, okay? So what I'm saying is the Hillary Clinton campaign and the Ukraine collusion, the DNC and the Ukraine collusion, that is the truth. And the mainstream media ought to cover this story. Well, that's our show for today. Our show is not about left or right. It's about right or wrong. To stay up to date with our latest videos, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel by clicking subscribe. Thanks for tuning in.